Are you dreaming of passive income while enjoying the scenic views of the Smoky Mountains? What if I told you there's a booming opportunity right now to invest in short-term rentals that could transform your financial future? Today, we're going to share some of the most important information you need to have on why the Smoky Mountains are the perfect destination for short-term rental investments, how to get started, and what you need to watch out for. With over 14 million annual visitors, the Smoky Mountains are one of the most visited national parks in the U.S. Tourists flock here year-round for hiking, stunning views, and family-friendly attractions. The constant influx of visitors creates a robust demand for short-term rentals, making it an ideal market for investors. And compared to urban rental markets, regulations are far more favorable, and attractive price points make it easy for someone to start a portfolio here.
We're actually sitting here at one of our cabins. It's a gorgeous day. This is the very first cabin that we ever bought. We bought it right before COVID, and we have just done fantastic with it. So we know what it's like to be an investor as well. And we also co-host for some of our clients too. So we've kind of seen it all, been through it all, and we can really help you, and we know what works well in this particular market. And that is Pigeon Forge, Gatlinburg, Sevier County.
One of the things that we've noticed as of late is a lot of cabins have been doing really well in the smaller range. So for those people who are maybe getting into the markets for the first time and they're looking at, call it, 2 to 3 bedroom type cabin stuff in the 12 to 15 to 1800 square foot range. It's been a really strong market. And I think part of that is it takes a little bit more to get a big crowd together to go on vacation. Certainly there's less available cabins there. But the 2 and 3 bedrooms that we've seen have been priced well and are performing really well. They actually get high occupancy rates. Just closed one the other day, a great 3 bedroom. We really, really like this one. It was just off the strip in Pigeon Forge, great little enclave, good amenities. But one of the things that separated this for us, and when we go hunting for cabins, this is one of the things that we actually look for, is bad management. And these weren't particularly terrible people, but they had turned it over to a management company who really didn't have any skin in the game and wasn't doing what needed to be done to maximize the profitability. That we also hadn't seen any real reinvestment in the property. And so when that happens, it does get ignored by the market a little bit when it still has a tremendous opportunity. So our clients who just closed on that spent about a week over there and then sent us pictures. And it was crazy what they were able to do literally in about 7 days time. Just changing out linens.
Yeah, nothing huge yet. They do have plans to kind of repaint and swap out some furniture, but honestly, they just wanted to keep rolling after closing. So they literally had 3 days to come in. They swapped out some bed linens. They took new pictures. It is Christmas time, so they decorated a little bit for Christmas and
Just at the bathroom.
dressed up the bathrooms, kind of did a refresh on the outside, and then they had to fly back home.
Yeah.
And she was, they were like, we hope that this does it. And so they threw their new pictures up there, and they got a booking within 2 days. But what are some other questions that we get? I think our number one question from our clients when we first start out with them is, what's the best location? Where should I be looking in Gatlinburg, Pigeon Forge, Sevier County? Where specifically is the best location to buy?
So here is the absolute best location. Are you paying attention? Here it is. It's wherever you can create a differentiated cabin. That's the answer. Now, does that mean that you can go an hour outside of Gatlinburg and have one of the highest producing properties? Maybe. What are you doing there? What did you buy it for? What is it? Is it a compound that has 7 different cabins and you got it all for $1 million? Well, then that's the best location. The fact of the matter is, the right place to have a cabin is wherever you can create the type of experience that people are going to want to come back to time and time again. So whether it's Wares Valley, inside, Gatlinburg city limits, outside the Gatlinburg city limits, just off the Parkway in Pigeon Forge, McCookville, high on the mountainside in Wares Valley, it doesn't really matter as long as it's accessible it's well maintained, it has what people are looking for, and you are managing it properly. Now, that's not to say that some locations just arbitrarily are going to be a little bit better than others, but you're often going to pay for that. So when you're talking about creating a return is based upon what you put into it versus what you get out of it. I had this conversation with a client last night, and we were talking about 10 versus 20% down. They said, well, we're not going to make as much money because we're going to be carrying a higher interest cost, for financing 90% of the purchase price versus, 20, putting down 20% and only having 80%. I said, that's true. But at the same time, when you look at it on a return basis, if you put $80,000 down and then you make a net $20,000 after that, then you're making about a 25% return. Well, if you put down $40,000, but you only make $8,000, well, you're still making a 20% return. It's the same return profile. Is it going to be the same amount of cash flow? No, but you also put less money into it. So one of the things that we talk to people about is look at what you think in that location it will do, okay? Because you don't need to have one that does six figures if what you can put into it is significantly less than what it takes to buy one that you believe will do six figures in revenue. There are all different types of return profiles out there. And some are going to be a little more based on appreciation, while others are going to be based on cash flow. So when you're doing that, you're going to need a little bit of help. We're happy to do that, is to sit down and kind of walk you through what that looks like. So when it comes down to it, what really stands out? Okay, while the exact location may not be important, look behind us. Let's pause for a second. All right. That makes a difference. That's a view. That's what people want. So when you can create views, that's amazing. When you can be by the water, whether it's a stream or a lake or one of the many creeks around here, that is an advantage. But it doesn't have to have these.
I'll say too, location. Maybe you're 5 minutes from the parkway in Pigeon Forge. And you might have, it might not be a private cabin. You might have neighbors everywhere. But you know what? You're 5 minutes from the parkway. A lot of families look for that. And you're not driving up steep mountain roads. There's a lot of people that are kind of scared to drive up to a cabin. If you're getting a view like this, you're probably going to be driving up a mountain in order to get there. So it just kind of depends on what's your avatar, what kind of guest would you like, and also what are your goals for the cabin? Is it something that you and your family are going to come and use? Well, if that's the case, then what do you like to do on vacation? Do you like to be minutes away from Pigeon Forge with all the restaurants and all the attractions that's there? Or do you like to be a little bit set back? We have the Smoky Mountains National Park right behind us, and we're about 20 minutes away from downtown Gatlinburg. The people that rent this cabin, they're renting it for the views. They want to be a little bit away from all of the hustle and bustle because their family is going to go hiking. They might drive into Gatlinburg or Pigeon Forge for a little bit for the day, but most of the time they're going to want to be here sitting and looking at this view. So back to our point, they all rent well.
Yeah, and I will say actually this cabin, I would say, is kind of a balance of the two. This one is in a great development here about 6.5 miles outside of downtown. So while it does have a little bit of a drive in, it's that balance point. That's what we often tell people is you can get right into town, which is great. And I think for smaller cabins and people who aren't looking for the extra space, that's maybe a better option. I will say the further you get out of town, the more likely you are to do better with a slightly larger cabin because you're probably getting folks who need a place to congregate, and so they're willing to drive a little bit further to get the space. So that is something to take into consideration. Yeah, a lot of people, they go looking for stuff, either, it's tax time, I got some money, now I'm ready to reinvest. I will tell you right now is actually our favorite time to buy. Because if you're looking in December, obviously, depending upon your situation, if you've already got properties and you're trying to amplify, the benefits, the tax provisions, so that you can have a bigger write-off, then you got to close before the end of December. In fact, you need to close really about 2 weeks before the end of December so that it's available for rental, so that you can meet those short-term rental write-offs. But if not, then closing something in January or early February is actually a great thing to do. And why? So when we close on a new loan in that month, we are going to be preloaded with, all of the allocations for our portion of taxes and everything else. And we're going to get hit with whatever the interest charge is at closing. But at the same time, you're not going to have a note the next month. So if you close on January 15th on a property, then you're going to have your closing costs and everything else, which you should have already, accounted for. Then you're not going to have a note in February. You're not going to hit with a note until March. And so that allows you the opportunity to get in there, take the extra cash that you have, get those renovations, and then balance your inflows with your outflows a little bit better, as well as getting all that work done during that downtime so that when you do put it on the market, it is as up to date as you're going to get it for that year. That way you're coming to market with great photos, updates, new amenities, changes to the floor plan, whatever it is that you want to do with that property to make it stand out. Not to mention, when you're putting it on the market in March, we're back into a light bloom right there, and you got the dogwoods coming and everything else. So it makes for a really good first round picture. And so a lot to do there, a lot that you can capture from a value standpoint by kind of shopping in the market right now. And we have multiple people in the market, but just as many people as we have in the market looking, there's plenty of deals out there. And honestly, I think a lot of them are getting better by the day because some of these properties have not been marketed great. They haven't been managed great. They don't have the numbers that are supporting what they likely can do. And so they're getting discounted by other buyers. And, we take time to kind of look through that, come through and say, what is the real capacity and potential on this? And talk very honestly about what that means for our investors. So if that's something you're interested in, give us a call. Remember, Epic Outcomes, Mark and Kelli Brewer. The information's right here. Look at the bottom of the screen. You can subscribe, follow us, check out our other videos, text us, and set up a call. We'd love to talk to you. Let's jump into just kind of the topic of du jour as of late, which is, we have seen interest rates a little bit higher for a little bit longer. And while we're all hoping for those to kind of start to come down, and there's, I think a possibility of seeing anywhere from a 50 to a full 100 basis point move over the next 12 months, there's not necessarily a guarantee that that's going to happen. And I think that has some people kind of balking and wondering, do I need to stay on the sidelines? The fact of the matter is we continue to see steady appreciation over time. We continue to see the opportunity set, change. And so folks that are deferring the idea of their investment because of financing cost, you're delaying buying in a market that is likely to get more expensive. Your financing cost can always be reset. You can always go back and refinance into a lower interest rate. And the fact of the matter is, if interest rates don't come down meaningfully, then you've just deferred your opportunity to generate cash flow. So if the investment makes sense, then it's time to go, because these things, they're not getting cheaper over time. So getting in at the right level, knowing that, your financing may reduce some of your return temporarily, but knowing that you're going to have a shot at reducing that interest cost and thus, creating additional cash flow and investment that you purchased at a lower price, that is absolutely something that we think is paramount to your overall investment decision. That's not to say that you should come in and race in and throw money at whatever you can get your hands on. It's important that you really do an evaluation and understand what it's likely to generate. But at the same time, don't let financing be the thing that causes you to back away from it. If you can't qualify personally, the majority of what we do over here is actually funded with DSCR loans, which is a great commercial product that basically looks at the cash flow generation abilities of the property. And those, if they are adequate, underwrite the value of the loan. So it's not based on your personal income. So if you've got cash on hand and you're in the position to be able to put that 20% down and have a reserve for whatever you need to update. And we always tell people, don't walk into this and spend every dollar you got just to get through closing, because that makes for a really tough and tight situation. It takes a little while to ramp these up and get them running the way that you want to, especially if you catch it in the off season. But that's, that's part of the game, is knowing that you have adequate reserve in any business that you come into. And with the short-term rental game, it's no different.
I think that's a good point, Mark. How do the majority of people finance these short-term rentals? I mean, there's a couple of different ways that you can go about it. The best way, if you can qualify for it, would be just your conventional mortgage. They do have second home loans as well.
Vacation
home loans, which is more of a conventional product. But the majority of loans that we deal with that our clients are getting are these DSCR loans. And if you guys haven't heard of them, let's just go into that a little bit about what they are and how you can qualify for them.
So a DSCR loan is, as I mentioned earlier, a commercial product. And what it basically does is it looks at that home as a business, and it determines how much cash it believes that that business, based upon comparable properties in the area, is going to generate. And then it compares that against the debt service load of what, when mortgaged, will be owed to own that asset. And basically, if it meets the necessary ratio requirements, or anywhere from 1 to 1.2, then basically the underwriters are going to say, okay, we're comfortable funding that loan at 20% down because we feel that there's an adequate opportunity for this property to generate the type of cash flow necessary to repay the debt used to finance the home.
Wait a minute. So you're telling me that this particular loan I don't have to qualify based off of my credit?
That's right.
And I don't have to qualify based off of my income?
Well, your credit is subject to examination, but at the same time, it's not about your income because the house is creating the income necessary. So that's the underwriting. That's the underwriting potential, is what the house will generate. Now, the other thing to keep in mind with the DSCR loan is, like most commercial loans, the terms are going to be a little bit tighter. Generally, your closing costs are going to be a little bit higher, and you're going to be anywhere from 100 to 150 basis points. And for those who don't know what basis points are, 100 basis points is 1%. So if we're saying that prime mortgage rates are 6%, and then we say at a commercial product would be 150 basis points higher, we're talking about 7.5%. So rather than trying to get into 8s and 0.257s and things like that, we just talk in round 100 basis points. So yes, a DSCR loan is a great opportunity. We have quite a few lenders. One in particular, you know who you are, that we absolutely love to use and has been extremely successful in pushing through tons of loans for us. In fact, the two on our latest 2 properties, both were DSCRs with this party. So it's a great tool for helping build your portfolio.
One of the reasons why it is so important to work with a lender that is familiar with doing DSCR loans in particular, but also in a specific area, is because the lenders we work with that do DSCR loans, we make sure that the appraiser is going to pull other short-term rental comps, because there's a huge difference in monthly income and how they qualify the property. If they're going to pull what a property might rent for just on a long-term lease, that's going to be greatly different than what a property is going to make on a monthly basis on a short-term rental comp.
Right.
And so we make sure that the appraisers, that they pull the comps that are equal for what the property is going to be used for, which is why it's also important to make sure that your realtor, your lenders are very, very familiar with this particular area, especially if you're going to use a commercial loan product. One of the biggest regulations that we have come across that's new from the fire department is if you sleep more than 12 in your cabin, you will now need to have a fire suppression system, meaning sprinklers, in your cabin. And this is a big expense. We've seen quotes anywhere from $30,000 on up to almost $100,000, just depending on the size of the cabin. So that's one thing to definitely look out for when you're looking for big cabins. Sometimes we can negotiate the cost of a fire suppression system into it because sellers know they're going to have to put that in. Or hopefully, if it's new construction, then they are placing that in there in the first place.
Yeah, so that's on larger mega cabins. You've got a lot of people who've been trying to squeeze in a higher head count, so that they can advertise they sleep 15, 16, 18 people, when realistically, it's a 4-bedroom with just beds jammed everywhere. That's a fire hazard in and of itself, and we don't advocate for that. I mean, everybody wants to make the maximum amount of revenue, but the truth is what's really been doing well are differentiated custom cabins. So we've been talking with a lot of folks lately who are in the market right now, and one of the things that has kind of bubbled up here is, the core tenets of what makes for a great cabin still exist: views, location, amenities, and finishes. And then on top of all that, you can have those four. If you don't have great customer service and responsiveness to your guests' needs, all of it's kind of for naught anyway. So from that standpoint, as you're going through looking at opportunities, one, we have been steering people kind of clear of those larger cabins that don't have the fire suppression systems and that are likely to have problems meeting code needs. One of the other things is with sleeping spaces, if you do not have 2 points of egress for a room that is designated as a bedroom, it will not pass code. We are actually having to address this with one of our historical cabins. And we've got a plan of attack for it. We're going to be moving some things around and doing some very minor construction. Silver lining is, hey, we're getting a theater room out of it that we didn't have in the house because we're having to restructure things a little bit. So there's always an upside if you play the game right.
And when we talk about regulations in this area, we don't necessarily mean zoning regulations. It's very friendly zoned for short-term rentals all over this area. It's mostly fire safety zoning that they're putting into place, which quite frankly was probably needed, So it's more so zoning for guest safety, making sure that the fire extinguishers are up to date, making sure that the ingress and egress out of the bedrooms are good. You now have to have a floor plan, a fire safety floor plan, so guests know how to evacuate the property in case there would be a fire. Things like that. So not necessarily a zoning ordinance over here. Talking about all of the rules and regulations here in Sevier County, there's not a lot of them, but they've just started to get implemented. That's why it is so important to go with someone that knows this market. And also, we're investors as well. We're actually sitting here at one of our cabins. It's a gorgeous day. This is the very first cabin that we ever bought. We bought it right before COVID, and we have just done fantastic with it. So we know what it's like to be an investor as well. And we also co-host for some of our clients too. So we've kind of seen it all, been through it all, and we can really help you, and we know what works well in this particular market. And that is Pigeon Forge, Gatlinburg, Sevier County. So please reach out to us if you're looking to get an investment. We kind of hold your hand from the beginning all the way through. And then after closing, we also give advice. We have vendors on what it's like to actually own and run one of these cabins, because we have multiple and we've been doing this for quite a few years now. Yeah, if you see one of our other videos, yes, we do co-host with people, and our kind of differentiating deal is we're actually coaching you on how to do it yourself. At some point, we want you to spread your wings and fly. We're willing to help you for as long as it takes for you to get comfortable with the idea of doing that. And there are people who've asked us to co-host indefinitely, and that's great. We're happy to do that. But our real pitch here is to get you up and running so that you can build your own little empire and find that financial freedom that everybody wants so badly. All right, so we're going to start to wrap up here. We're going to cover one more big topic, and that is the idea of market saturation. I have heard this argument multiple times, and the fact of the matter is it just doesn't stand true. People talk about market saturation, but there being too many STRs in any particular area. The fact of the matter is, real market saturation is not when there are a ton of options, but there are a ton of competitive options. And the fact of the matter is, there is a lot in this area that simply is not going to compete with you if you are doing this the right way, you are managing it the right way, and you are putting the capital necessary into creating a differentiated property. Yes, there's a lot of places around here that are cabins for rent. That does not make them cabins that should be rented or that most people really want to rent. So keep in mind that, the area around us continues to grow. The businesses in this area, they're targeting over 14 million visitors next year. And if you look at the commercial development in the area, the expansions at Dollywood, at Anakista, the money that's being put into over to Gatlinburg, everything that seems to be changing hands and coming online in Pigeon Forge, the complete build out of
new entertainment centers, restaurants. They've even authorized an entire another exit off the interstate. That's got a couple years down the road, but I mean, we're talking about a significant growth in the area. And as that continues to take place, those businesses are going to need visitors, and those visitors are going to need places to stay. So look, when big business comes in and they are doing the logistical analysis and doing the forecast to understand how many people are going to be coming to an area, the fact of the matter is you can use that as a fairly reliable source of what your revenue potential will be. Doesn't mean it won't be competitive. It doesn't mean that you don't have to do it the right way. You can't just throw a cabin up and hope that it does well. You have to know what you're doing, and that's what we're here, is to help you design, decide, and implement the type of management and the type of property that is going to stand out in this market. But the fact of the matter is, this area is going to continue to grow. We know that, and it's going to be here for quite a while. So it's always a good time to be in the market if you're doing it the way that you're supposed to.
Some of the amenities, we get asked from investors, why do people come here? Well, the big one, there's Dollywood, and Dollywood is expanding as well. There's Anakista, and Anakista has, you take the tram.
You can take, you can take the gondolas up.
The gondolas up.
We prefer the truck. I'm not a fan of sitting on a gondola hanging 40 feet off the ground. It's one of the reasons I don't ski very much.
You should do it once. Do it once, because it's a beautiful view to get up the mountain to Anakista.
But take the truck back down.
Yeah. I mean, so that's a whole day of family activities just there. There's a mountain coaster there.
Multiple now.
Oh, is there?
Yeah,
Are there
multiple? Yeah, they just keep growing.
There's restaurants up on that mountain. They do a whole tree walk. You should really check that out.
The zip lines. My God, there's a lot of actually zip lines in this area. In fact, there's one right down the street from us. I think I'm nodding my head in the right direction. Over here is one of our favorites, and they actually put you in big off-road 4x4s and mud you up the mountain, then throw you on the zip lines and bring you back down. And it's an absolute blast.
There's a lot of the Nashville restaurants that are on Broadway. There's two big ones that just came here as well into downtown Gatlinburg. One is Old Red, which is Blake Shelton's place, and so there's live music there all of the time. Jason Aldean just opened his restaurant on the Strip as well, and that's a huge 3-story venue. They have live music, rooftop bar. Ober Gatlinburg, which is, the ski resort here. They're refreshing everything.
Yeah, Ober's putting literally millions upon millions into expanding their facility. So there you, it's been here since I was a kid. So you went in a couple of years ago, it was getting pretty dated. People were still going. It still had the ice skating, everything else. They're now starting to pour a lot of money into Ober Gatlinburg, and we expect to see that. And the Skywalk Bridge.
The island, you have the island in Pigeon Forge, which is a whole other entertainment area as well.
All the Dollywood related shows up and down the Strip. So you don't actually even have to go to Dollywood. There's, the Pirates Dinner Theater, and there's Dolly Stampede and everything else. I mean, there's tons of different things. And then Paula Dean's and the Lumberjack Feud and the Titanic Museum and Wonderworks. And
you have downtown Flavortown, which is Guy Fieri's restaurant. There's a restaurant in there. There's a bowling alley in there. There's an adult size arcade games there. So there's something for everyone, from just the toddler all the way on up, to grandma and grandpa. It's such a great family location to come to. And it's also drivable from, a lot of different places in the United States.
The majority of the East Coast, quite frankly, we see people from drive in from Florida. We see people drive in from New York State, the Dakotas. It goes on and on. And, we used to make this drive from Texas. Yeah. And let me tell you, it's not a short drive. Coming from Houston, it's about 15 and a half hours, but it is doable. And my family used to do this from South Louisiana all the time. So it is one of the most well-positioned areas that you could possibly be in for a short-term rental. And you don't deal with high seasonality. It is seasonal here. You're going to do summers, your fall, your Christmas time, those are your big seasons. Your spring break times, those are when you're going to do kind of more your peak business. But you have people here year round. And so it's one of these where you can actually make money 12 months a year.
Because speaking to that, the city of Pigeon Forge and Gatlinburg, they do a great job of putting on events all throughout the year. One of the big ones are Rod Run, which we always get people for Rod Run. There are constant tournaments in the area. We get a lot of people. There's Rocky Top Sports World that holds tournaments for high schoolers, middle schoolers. We get a lot of bookings for that. There's a lot of things that even during the off season the city puts on that people will come in for, so your cabin will get rented out.
Yeah, check our Instagram page for that. I think we've actually got a post out there that covers some of the prominent seasonal opportunities that are here in Gatlinburg. So anyway, we have dumped a lot on you, and we hope this has been really helpful. If there's something that we didn't get into, or there's something you want to know more about, again, Mark and Kelli Brewer with Epic Outcomes. We're also the owners of epicvacationproperties.com, where you can rent any one of the nearly dozen homes in our portfolio. And again, this is the stuff that we own, as well as the stuff that we co-host with our clients. So we would love to actually have you stay with us. We'd also love to help you buy a cabin and teach you how to host it so you can become financially independent and get away from that corporate job that you're hating. That's how I got here. Got tired of it. So we look forward to hearing more from you. Reach out, subscribe, hit the button below, give us comments, let us know what you're thinking. If there's a topic that we didn't cover that you want to know, stick it in the comments and let us know. And you can always reach out to us via text or email. We look forward to spending more time with you and telling you more about the opportunities in this area. And in the meantime, have a great holiday season. Enjoy yourself, spend some time with family. That's the most important thing. That's one of the reasons we got in this business, is where we used to spend our holidays. And now it's where we spend all of our holidays. So you guys have a great one. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and take care.